Check out today's piece of OtakuDaiKun fan art. It's a cute little skit featuring me and the artist's avatar. There's a kind of Japanese radish called a daikon, so I suppose I can see the confusion. Actually, the name Daikun originally came from a silly Japanese name generator I used in high school. I put my real name in and got Daisetsu, so I've just sort of used it ever since. Thank you for the artwork, Pier072. Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. Dai here. I recently had the pleasure of watching Death Parade, an interesting, philosophically packed anime centered around the idea of judging people's souls. I very much enjoyed this show, and can basically recommend it to everyone. That said, it's not without its faults. As far as I'm aware, Death Parade originally started out as a one-off OVA called Death Billiards, and after it achieved critical success, the basic concept was fleshed out into a broader story. While the creators definitely expanded on that initial plot, I'd argue they didn't go far enough in explaining more precisely how this fascinating world works. Before I get ahead of myself, let me cover the foundation of this anime. This video is meant to analyze the content of the anime, so if you wish to avoid spoilers, I recommend you go watch it first. In North America, you can stream it in both sub and dub from Hulu, and the home video release has been out for a while now. Essentially, there's this mysterious tower that collects the souls of people who've recently died. Souls are taken here to be judged, and either sent back for reincarnation or cast into the void. The void is described as a morbid place where souls are eternally left in a free fall, basking in negative emotions. Every soul goes through a process of arbitration to determine whether they're worthy of reincarnation or not. Typically, the souls are gathered in pairs, stripped of their memories of how they died. Not realizing they're deceased, these confused victims are tricked into playing one of several bizarre games designed to provoke their inner darkness. As the game progresses, the two regain glimpses of their memories, and by the end, they finally realize that they're now dead. Determined by masks above each elevator, each soul is sent to either heaven or hell, or again, more specifically, reincarnation or the void. This is a very engaging premise that gives rise to several dramatic questions that, sadly, don't all get satisfying answers. The biggest of which are, what exactly is this tower, and why go about judging people at all? The show keeps us viewers at arm's length, never really giving us a direct answer to these questions. From what I can gather, the tower exists in the realm of the dead, inaccessible to the living. The anime's website states that the creator of this arbitration system is Oculus, this uncanny old guy who refers to himself as the person second closest to God. He even implies that God is no longer around, meaning that this whole system might be blindly carrying on based on what God originally wanted. That's just my speculation, though. The individuals making judgments are referred to as arbiters, and despite looking and acting quite human, they technically aren't. Arbiters are akin to animated dolls, lacking human emotive qualities because, as Oculus puts it, humans cannot judge each other and keep their sanity. It's too emotionally compromising for a fellow human to judge or condemn others. As a result, the anime's vibrant and energetic opening theme is the most passion you'll ever see from the main cast. It's ironic to tell us these arbiters can't feel, while the OP has them dancing and celebrating throughout. Even more ironic is that, of all the arbiters, our protagonist Decim is supposedly an arbiter given select human features, and yet he is by far the most deadpan and oblivious. The difference between what they show us and what they straight up tell us makes the anime a bit difficult to comprehend at times. This begs another question. How do these arbiters make their decisions if they can't even relate to the humans they judge? Is there any kind of objective metric or guideline to follow? Turns out there isn't, and this winds up being one of Death Parade's most baffling yet immersive ideas. One clever bit of philosophy the anime uses is the idea that people cannot be judged solely off of their memories alone. Arbiters are shown the deceased's memories before starting the game. These memories can indicate how people spent their final moments, but they cannot account for how those people felt and why they acted in certain ways. The games are designed to poke and prod at the dead to see if they'll snap and cave to their unstable mental states. Whoever wins the game isn't even relevant at that point. For instance, a gentle old woman may display her inner cruelty when provoked. Even then, however, without any kind of objective measurement, the idea of letting a third party judge you in the quality of your character is simply unfair. People, including the Arbiters, are biased creatures and can make mistakes. I mean, casting someone to an eternity of misery by accident or false judgment seems totally messed up. The Arbiters tend to disagree with each other, and there doesn't seem to be a correct answer for whether someone truly deserves the void or not. Naturally, this is an intentional move on part of the writers. While the term arbiter may refer to those who settle disputes, it also comes from the word arbitrary, which refers to the random or whimsical nature of making choices. As such, the whole process of arbitration is, well, arbitrary. If an arbiter's choice is no more reliable than picking at random, why even bother with playing games at all? Hell, why even bother to maintain the tower in the first place? Another theme the anime plays with is the involvement of humans in the arbitration process. Decim, despite being the one character who seems emotionless, is actually the only arbiter with the capacity for human emotions. His boss, Nona, had this experiment done behind Oculus's back. Just like me, she has her doubts about this whole arbitration system too. Obviously, Decim doesn't seem very in touch with his emotions, instead performing judgments in a rather clinical way. This continued until he encountered a human named Chiyuki, a deceased woman who entered his bar with full knowledge of her own death. This wasn't supposed to happen, and as such, Decim found himself unable to judge her soul. Nona stepped in and used this as a chance to cultivate Decim's emotions. For a temporary period, Chiyuki has her memories erased and her judgment is postponed so she can serve as Decim's assistant. She's allowed to provide her own human insight during Decim's judgments, and this makes him question his methods. In particular, Chiyuki suggests that the games, which are meant to put souls in a stressed mental state, may not just be revealing a person's inner evils, but actually forcing otherwise decent people to snap under unfair pressure. This implies that all humans have the capacity for good and evil. Some of us have just lived under vastly different circumstances. If that's true, then pretty much every human who dies is worthy of reincarnation. There'd be no reason to cast anyone to the void. Rather ominously, it seems that the souls cast into the void serve as fuel for the Arbiters, who are otherwise just lifeless dolls. Other than the need to power the Arbiters, there's no specified, objective reason they can't just reincarnate everyone. There are times when Decim does choose to reincarnate both his guests. In the end, when it's finally time to judge Chiyuki for her suicide, he of course chooses to reincarnate her. Was there ever any doubt? Wouldn't his personal bias harm the arbitration process? In a court of law, for instance, Decim would never be allowed on a jury panel to decide her fate, and yet here he is choosing whether to send people he doesn't even understand toward a new beginning or eternal damnation. From a storytelling and lore perspective, this is incredibly frustrating. Death Parade asks way more questions than it has any intention of answering. While this bothers me, I also realize that this is completely intentional. The incompetent arbitration system the anime presents us with isn't there to give us correct answers, but rather to put us in the privileged position of judging others. What would we do if we were in Decim's situation? Different people have different moral compasses, and since the anime lacks a clearly defined moral code of its own, we have no choice but to apply ours. Thus, I want to spend the rest of this video going through the various cases presented at Quindecim, putting my own perspective on things, and asking you to do the same. The anime's first case is that of Machiko and Takashi, a newlywed couple that died when their car careened off a cliff. Under normal circumstances, it seems the couple would have been perfectly happy, but trouble started on their wedding day when Takashi overheard a rumor. Supposedly, a girl nicknamed Machi had been cheating on her husband, who was a doctor. Since he too is a doctor, he had good reason to assume the rumor was about his own bride-to-be. Instead of bringing it up at the wedding, however, he went through with marrying Machiko and observed her with paranoia. Eventually, this paranoia drove him to try and steal Machiko's phone while driving, leading to the accident that killed them. In truth, this girl, Machi, is one of Machiko's old friends. The rumor never actually referred to his wife at all, so he got triggered by a false alarm. Ironically, however, Machiko did in fact cheat on him, just once, with another man. She was planning on breaking up with her side partner when her husband tried to grab her phone. As the two play their game of darts, we learn that Machiko is pregnant with Takashi's child. We know it's his child because she became pregnant before their wedding, before she cheated on him. When Takashi learns of her pregnancy, the thought that he may have killed his own child brings him terrible grief, and so, in an attempt to ease his anguish, Machiko lies, claiming the child belongs to the man she cheated with. In other words, she makes herself out to be more of a villain so that her husband doesn't have to face any guilt. As such, Decim sends Takashi for reincarnation, and Machiko to the void. He never considers the possibility that Machiko was lying about the father until Chiyuki brings it up. This development shows that Decim could have made a different judgment had he considered the couple's deeper feelings. Nona, however, remarks that a man like Takashi was skeptical by nature, so the couple would never have found happiness. So right from the get-go, we're presented with a situation with no clear answer. Overall, I'd say both the husband and wife made critical mistakes. Despite being faithful, Takashi made the wrong choice by not confronting his wife about the rumor in a safe, controlled environment. Instead, he let his doubts fester until they exploded at a dangerous moment. When you suspect someone is cheating, you need proof to back it up. If she still seemed suspicious even after speaking to her about the rumor, he could have tried to find proof and settle the matter in court. Clearly, neither of them intended to die that day. Machiko, on the other hand, shouldn't have cheated. That much is obvious. That kind of betrayal is unforgivable, and a lover is lucky to be taken back no matter how much they regret their mistake. There's no doubt that she cares for Takashi, though, and this is clear when she makes herself the villain to save his broken spirit. Even so, she betrayed him, and that would be the case even if Takashi never suspected her and they lived a happy life together. While I'd definitely agree that Machiko is the greater sinner in this situation, it's not all black and white, and even if she's more guilty than him, I'd have a hard time justifying that either of them deserve to suffer eternally for it. There's a reason people don't get executed during divorce proceedings. The second case is way more straightforward. Two college-age adults, Shigeru and Mai, play a game of bowling while they regain memories of their deaths. The two were childhood friends. Mai had a crush on Shigeru, but he never seemed interested in her. After she moved away, she got plastic surgery to beautify her face so she would look more like their other childhood friend, Chisato. It seemed like she was trying to imitate Chisato to earn Shigeru's affection, but he wound up learning of the surgery before they actually met up again. Sadly, before they had the chance to talk, their bus got in an accident, killing them both. At first, Mai and Shigeru believe she's Chisato, but by the end of the game, they both know the truth. They fall in love, and before being judged by Decim, they request to have a date at the bar. It's cute and wholesome, so it makes sense when both souls are reincarnated. A girl who felt that she had to change her face to become beautiful winds up accepted by the boy she likes. There was no penalty for reincarnating both of them, so it makes me wonder why they ever have to cast people to the void at all. The third case involves a man named Yosuke and the TV celebrity Misaki. These two never knew each other in life, but they both died around the theme of family. Yosuke had a troubled childhood and never reciprocated the kindness he received from his caring stepmother. He committed suicide and later regrets this after realizing he had someone who loved him all along. Misaki, however, was a woman who went through various abusive relationships, coming out of them with new children but no father to help raise them. She found success as an actress on TV, but she was so defensive of her children that she antagonized her own assistant, who ultimately murdered her. The two regain these memories while playing an arcade fighting game. Things get complicated when Decim interferes with the game, causing the machine to malfunction. Desperate to survive and see her kids again, Misaki steps away from her cabinet to brutally attack Yosuke. While their game ends in a tie, Decim sends Yosuke for reincarnation while condemning Misaki to the void. Chiyuki opposes Decim's foul play, fearing it caused Misaki to react more desperately than she otherwise would have. In other words, he made Misaki look bad. Now, I'll agree that Misaki may not have attacked Yosuke had the arcade been working properly, but this game does demonstrate that she's the kind of woman who would hurt innocent bystanders to survive. That's messed up even if she's doing it for her kids. One can certainly argue that without interfering in the game, Decim wouldn't have been able to obtain this critical information. At the very least, I can understand his judgment in this case, though Misaki, of course, was also a victim in life who could have turned out better under different circumstances. The fourth case is actually arbitrated by a dude named Ginty. He appears cruel and ruthless, but it seems that he too sometimes doubts his own judgments after what happens here. He arbitrates between Harada and Mayu, an idol and his devoted fan respectively. Being a big shot, Harada was a playboy in life, dating and casting away girls at his leisure. One of the girls he dumped wound up killing herself, and her sister murdered him to take revenge. Not knowing any of this, Mayu was a die-hard fan of Harada and his band. She died simply by slipping on a bar of soap in the bathroom. Aw. The two of them are forced to play a game of Twister that gets more dangerous as time goes on. Mayu loves getting to be so close to her idol, yet he just writes her off as an annoying, ugly fangirl. When the playmat becomes a bottomless pit, Harada attempts to knock Mayu off to her death, but she, not wanting to piss herself in front of him, leaps off of her own volition. Ginty is shocked to see someone who doesn't put their own life first for once, so he doesn't know how to respond. He keeps the two of them around for a while, letting them put on a concert while he thinks his decision through. Even though Harada starts to care for Mayu after this incident, Ginty still marks him for the void, and refusing to part with her beloved, Mayu clings to him, essentially choosing the same fate. There's something beautiful yet senseless to it all, again just making me ask why it has to be this way. What if someone who you think deserves salvation refuses it to stay with someone else? The fifth case is easily the most intense. Both the student Shimada and the detective Tatsumi are murderers. Shimada is a young man who dropped out of high school to support his little sister. When he discovered that his little sister was assaulted by a delinquent, he tracked down and murdered that delinquent, receiving a fatal wound in the process. Fearing the assailant had an accomplice, Shimada lashed out and attacked the first person to enter the apartment, unintentionally killing Tatsumi. Prior to this, Tatsumi's wife was murdered, and as a police detective, he became hell-bent on getting revenge. Eventually, he tracked down the murderer and took that revenge. This liberated him from his desire to obey the law, and so he started ignoring the justice system to kill others he deemed evil. Tatsumi was a witness on the night Shimada's sister was violated, and he stood aside, watching the whole thing instead of stopping it. After all, he wanted an excuse to kill criminals, even if that meant letting them become criminals first. Thus, when Tatsumi did come to kill the culprit, he accidentally died to Shimada's attack. All of this becomes clear as the two men play a game of air hockey. Even after remembering his death, though, Tatsumi feels justified in his behavior and even congratulates Shimada for killing him. Shimada himself just wanted to protect his sister, but discovering that Tatsumi just watched her get violated sets him off. Tatsumi encourages this anger, asking Shimada to torment him even though they're both dead. This whole mess bothers Chiyuki, and she tries to calm Shimada down, but it fails. In the end, both men are sent to the void. At this point, Chiyuki's confidence in the arbitration system is totally wrecked, and she chides Decim for his inability to understand humans. Her resentment makes Decim doubt himself at the worst possible time, as soon as he needs to finally judge her. Now, the morality of killing is tricky. We typically allow it in cases of self-defense, and we can certainly understand the motive of revenge. Sadly, it appears that vengeance harms everyone involved, corrupting even those who try to seek it. Tatsumi seems easy enough to condemn because, long after avenging his wife, he's been doing evil things with no repentance or shame. It was less that he was willing to murder criminals, and more that he would rather let crimes occur to later avenge them instead of stopping them outright. Shimada, in my opinion, had reason to act the way he did. Of course, neither of these men would go free in a criminal case, but I don't feel that Shimada is inherently evil. In an attempt to judge Chiyuki, since her time is running out, Decim has her play a card game with an old lady named Sachiko. Sachiko cleverly figures out she's dead by the supernatural nature of their game. as one of the playing cards featured a character design she thought of but never actually drew. She did nothing wrong and was courteous throughout. Of course she gets reincarnated. Sadly, it doesn't really help Decim deal with Chiyuki, who has just discovered her real name. The final case, then, is obviously Chiyuki herself. She was a happy girl who grew up with loving friends and family. She became a successful figure skater, but that ended when she incurred an injury that ruined her career. Feeling detached from everyone around her, she committed suicide. Doing something special, Decim pulls some strings and recreates Chiyuki's old house. She is shown the illusion of her crying mother, who continues to mourn her. Chiyuki realizes what a fool she was, how selfish it was to end her own life. Decim then gives her a rare opportunity. In exchange for taking the life of someone on Earth, she can come back from the dead and be with her mother once again. It's such a tempting offer, but Chiyuki is based enough to know that it would be wrong to rob someone else of their life to make up for her mistake. She knows how important all lives are after seeing so many clients in Quindecim. Decim feels guilty for putting her in that position, and he begins to weep, finally waking to his human emotions. The anime ends with Decim sending Chiyuki for reincarnation. Oculus, the supposed creator of this system, believes that arbiters shouldn't have human emotions, as it makes the judging process unbearable. But Decim and Nona seem confident that understanding the human element is essential. Nona, in particular, seems determined to improve the system someday. That's all fine and dandy, but it doesn't really do much to answer my lingering questions. The biggest issue is that we still don't have a good reason for why souls are ever sent to the void. Even someone like Tatsumi, who seems hell-bent on continuing his killing spree, could be reborn under different circumstances, and thus would wind up a totally different person. It really does make us wonder if people are inherently evil, or if they're conditioned to be evil through societal interaction. Then there's the matter of whether arbiters deciding people's fate has any real merit. If they can doubt their decisions, and have no choice but to make those decisions without an understanding of the human psyche, is their judgment really any different than if they had just flipped a coin or something? The best part about this anime is that it makes you think, even if it harms its own storytelling to do so. As such, it's time to ask you guys for your opinions. If you were in Decim's shoes, what would you do in each of these cases? Under what circumstances would you justify sending someone's soul to suffer eternally? At what point do you consider someone worthy of redemption? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Before I go ahead and roll the credits, I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. VideoGamer75, Stephen Elak, Samuel Gersten, Otaku Mom, Jens Bauman, Mystic Samurai 1983, Free Brick, RNG or Shuffles 1498, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Johnny Tsunami, Link Pendrago, Caitlin P, Vladimir Ovna, Succubus Sakura, and SF Giants fan Mike. Thank you all so much. Thanks for watching.
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of our anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or our YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like exclusive vids and early access.
As always,
celebrate your fandom!